Hello and welcome back to another video. If you're looking for recommendations on what manhwa to read, then here are some that I've read recently that might be of interest. Manhwa titles are timestamped in the video for your convenience. Our first manhwa for today is Revenge of the Baskerville Bloodhound, a regression manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 123 on. Its main character is Baskerville, a bastard child of Hugo Baskerville, the current head and patriarch of this family within a fantasy world. With the reputation of being iron-blooded, the Baskerville family was known for their ruthlessness even to their own children. Weirdly enough, as well, if I'm understanding correctly that is, the various factions and forces within the family are also named after the various breeds of dogs. Anyway, Vikir was a faithful dog of Hugo, but the price he gets for being loyal? Being framed and executed for something that he didn't do. Wow. Of course, being the main character, he somehow wakes up back when he was a baby. A second chance means a new chance at revenge at both Hugo and the Baskerville family as a whole. Things, though, aren't so simple. The story is 10 out of 10. Considering it's a manhwa with 100 plus chapters, it sure didn't feel like it. It's one of the few rare times that I actually couldn't put it down until I was caught up to the most recent arc. It has such a focused core story concept and then is able to build on it as both Vikir and the readers go through his second life. The characters are 9 out of 10. Vikir is especially negative towards the family, of course, rightly so to a degree at the beginning. Slowly over time though, he matures and sees a bigger picture that was never possible to see in his first life. The character growth is real, but the other characters become lackluster a little bit later on. The art is 8 out of 10. Emotions, at least to me, seems to be the focus of this particular art style. It truly wants to display the pure rage that Vikir initially felt after being betrayed. At the same time, we get to see the devoid of emotions as he slowly gets more powerful, but also return to it as Vikir grows even stronger than his first life. So if you're a fan of regression manhwas with an initial motivator of revenge, but it's actually a growth story that continues to deliver, then Revenge of the Baskerville Bloodhound would be an interesting manhwa to start reading. This next manhwa to take a look at is I Stole the Female Lead's First Love, a romance manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 79 on. The protagonist is Karina Peonia, a person who reincarnated into a romance game that she played in her previous life, but as an extra that served to be a friend of the female protagonist. Stuck in her initial way of thinking, Karina, during her academy days, lets the events of the game pan out even though she was being looked down upon and manipulated by the supposed female lead. Even after the events of the game, this type of behavior followed, to now which 4 relationships or engagements were ruined by Tatiana, the female lead of the original game. However, enough was enough. Karina did not want anything more to do with Tatiana or her exes that followed her along. Will fate, though, have other plans? The story is 8 out of 10. The starting point that this manhwa has us readers begin from is actually kind of refreshing. The events of the original game or influence have already finished, so it shouldn't be the focus of the plot. We do get some flashbacks, but now it's just humans being humans in the backdrop of a game world that has no particular bearing on an original timeline or story now. The characters are 9 out of 10. And with that backdrop in mind, there are some in-universe explanations as to why certain events are happening and more history involved that at least I wasn't expecting given that particular game backdrop. At the very least, the fact that Karina has to investigate some things leaves some room to explore here and there. The art is 8 out of 10. The desperations and emotions displayed by Tatiana, especially in the more deranged or crazy moments, is quite well done. They also show her manipulative side very well. This, alongside Karina's resolve to push away from the bad influences and events in her life, is also shown admirably. So if you're a fan of romance manhwa and particularly enjoy seeing side characters of the original world living their best lives to the annoyance or jealousy of the supposed main characters, like I will divorce the female lead's older brother from my previous videos, then make sure to check out I Stole the Female Lead's First Love. I Raise Skeletons is the name of our first shorter manhwa for this week. It's a modern manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 30 on. Ju Dong-hoon is the name of its main character. Living in a modern world that has gone through the typical fantasy transformation where there are awakened people with dungeons and monsters, Dong-hun, to his own credit, awakened as a rare class, a necromancer to be particular. With his luck though, he can only raise skeletons as he ends up being a cursed necromancer if you will. Other necromancers, to Dong-hun's jealousy, are able to raise so much more and become quite the powerhouse in society. Dong-hun, though, continues to make a living by quote-unquote carrying low-ranked dungeons for newbie adventurers, but one day, due to an opportunity, accidentally discovers the talent and potential for his particular awakening. The potential is 7 out of 10. An actual main character that has struggles for a while before finding his gift of his class is a little bit more on the uncommon side of things. The sad part for this particular title though is it's currently in hiatus if I'm recalling correctly due to the author or illustrator's health issues since about February of this year. I do wish it eventually continues though as I do see some potential in how it's been approaching its story and plot. The art is 7 out of 10. Weirdly enough, the skeletons in this one have their own particular identities, which is an amusing time. I still wonder if the future potential of Dong-hun will allow him to summon more advanced skeletons, thinking like liches or death knights and things like that. If so, I'm curious on how they would approach displaying those as the art style for at least the necromancy part is a little bit more of a realistic kind. So if you're a fan of modern fantasy manhwas, don't mind the hiatus status of this particular manhwa, or maybe you're just watching this video when the manhwa has somewhat started again in the future, then I Raise Skeletons would at least be a consideration to start reading. Our other shorter story for this week is one that's not on hiatus, and it's The Three Princes of the Fallen Kingdom Have Returned, a regression manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 23 on. The focus of this story is on Yuri Briol, the third prince of the Briol Kingdom. Living a laid-back lifestyle initially, Yuri finds himself privileged and therefore lazy. This would come back to haunt him though, as he was powerless to do anything about the fall of his family and their kingdom, and instead prolongs his life at the price and sacrifices of others. Feeling guilty, he tries to atone by hunting down those that were responsible, but the effort was in vain as he still just perishes in the end. Of course, he wakes up back in the past when he was just 13 years old, and his family and kingdom are very much still intact. With his second chance, he looks to shave off his lazy young master title and have a chance at saving both his people and family from their supposed demise. The potential is 8 out of 10. Living the first life as a lazy one, seeing the kingdom fall and then regressing to have an opportunity to rectify things is a plot point that we've seen before. It reminds me particularly of A Flame Reborn, so if it has any semblance of how that story went so far, of course not exactly, but at least some elements of it, then I'm very much down to see what this is up to. The art is about 7 out of 10 for now. Given that my reading progress isn't significant as it's one of the shorter stories for this week, it resembles that typical art style you would see from a fantasy action manhwa. Maybe later on it's able to distinguish itself a little bit more, but I'm curious to see where it might go. So if you're a fan of reading shorter stories and wanted to start a fantasy action manhwa that seems to have a similar starting point to A Flame Reborn from my previous videos, then check out The Three Princes of the Fallen Kingdom Have Returned. Another week, another highlight. For those unaware, this is a section of the video I update impressions from manhwa that I previously covered. Today's highlight is The Reborn Young Lord is an Assassin, which I've now read up to chapter 86 on. Info card description will have links to my original opinion. Sian Vert, our protagonist, has been living this second chance at life very differently than his first one. It's been over a year since I covered this manhwa, but Sian has come a long way from being the mindless loyal dog for his brother that he was in his first life. With the power of the demonic sword still very much in his hands, taking whatever opportunity to become stronger, Sian's final goal is both clear yet murky. Recruiting various characters over to his side, residing within an academy that somewhat protects him in a way, whilst discovering the powers that are behind his own brother's back are just some of the activities that Sian has been busily up to. At the same time, we get to see more of the background plot with regards to his own powers, albeit from a more omniscient sense due to Sian not being aware of any of it. My previous scores for this manhwa was 7 out of 10 for potential and art. That potential translates to a 8 out of 10 for story, as personally, I feel that after covering so much manhwa over the past year, this one has a simple yet weighty plot that clearly has more of a grand scale, but keeps itself very focused. Considering that the dichotomy of good and evil, light and dark to an extent, are reversed in their own ways, allows for some more wiggle room as well. The characters, though, get translated to a 9 out of 10, as the characters are clearly the appeal in my opinion. You will likely find yourself enjoying the various roles that these people play within CN's sphere of influence. Even those that are not as powerful serve their own purpose, whether it be a change of pace or allow CN to relax and let his guard down for at least a period of time. The art goes up 2 points from 7 out of 10 to 9 out of 10, as if you're a fan of I'm the Max Level Newbie, this actually has a very similar art style, vibe, comedic changeup, and other parts that make the experience more enjoyable if you like that particular manhwa. The Reborn Young Lord is an Assassin is very much a regression action manhwa that looks to have viewers enjoy the clash between good and evil. So I would recommend it if you're a fan of the genre or enjoyed I'm the Max Level Newbie from my previous videos. Would you agree, or would you not? Comment down below your thoughts on The Reborn Young Lord is an Assassin. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Write down in the comment section down below what manhwa you've been reading and I might just take a look. Till next time though, have a good read.